UFC Nashville just recently wrapped up, and I'm going to recap the entire card. I'm going to talk about all of the matchups from fight number one in the prelims to the main event of the evening. So let's jump right into things and starting the card off. Fatima Kline put on a pretty dominant performance in striking against Melissa Martinez. She actually was failing some takedowns. Martinez defense was on point, stopped both of Kline's takedown attempts. But the striking is where Kline thrives. She was able to land the high kick in round number three, drops Melissa Martinez, and then finishes her off with a bit of ground and pound. She was clearly ahead, throwing good jabs and straight shots and striking from mid and long range pretty well throughout the first and second round. And she just looked levels ahead of Melissa Martinez. It was actually interesting, though, seeing how difficult a time Kline had engaging in like the clinch or wrestling with Melissa, where that would seemingly be more so of her advantage. She ended up just tuning her up in the striking, which I actually thought that was a telltale sign of the improvements of the young prospect. So, Kline's still developing, young, in her 20s, has a lot of room to grow. She's 8-1. Prospect to watch. I think she's skillful. She found a nice high kick here. The striking looked better than before. Takedown offense maybe looked worse, but the striking was good. The performance was good, and she was a deserved winner. Next fight on the card, Mitch Ramirez, Mike Davis. They engaged in a tough fight. Round number one, Mike Davis pretty much dominated the majority of it by having the back of Mitch Ramirez and attempting some rear naked chokes, none of which obviously hit. And then, coming into round number two, Mike Davis looked to be slowing down a bit. There was moments on the feet throughout the fight for Mitch Ramirez as he was landing shots in, mid-range, throwing straight punches and, kind of catching Davis with some shots, but like Davis would land and it would do more. It was still competitive, though. It was back and forth. Both were having moments. Davis was uncomfortable on the feet a bit. He was definitely looking labored in round number two. But Davis doesn't quit on himself. He talked about it after. He comes from the same boxing background in gym as Mike Tyson. He mentioned Custy Amato. Listen, his boxing, it looked pretty solid. He was able to rip some shots on the inside, some key shots. He was aggressive with his hands. He landed power, and then he ended up knocking Mitch Ramirez out after round number one was a grappling display. Round number two, he showcased the stand-up game, and he looked pretty good on the feet here. I do think that there was the, clear thud on his shot more so than on the opposite side with Mitch Ramirez. It was scrappy, though. Like, both guys landed. There was more strikes landed from Ramirez. Honestly, in some moments, it looked like Ramirez was winning the striking fight between the two. The difference is Davis didn't quit on himself, right? Ramirez got caught with that body shot, started to wilt, and then got broken. Mike Davis, even though he was gassed out at points, I definitely felt like he had to dig deep in this fight. He was able to come out on top, and he pulled through in a fight that maybe ended up looking a little harder than anticipated. Not that he didn't dominate the fight, definitely won, but like Mitch Ramirez was there to bang. I guess Ramirez deserves love and respect for going out there and putting out a gutsy performance, but Mike Davis was clearly the better fighter and pulled off the win. The next fight on the card, Kennedy and Nzechukwu versus Valter Walker. This fight was awesome. I picked Valter Walker to win, and he got a quick heel hook. He started the fight off with a blitz. He was pressuring Kennedy and Nzechukwu backwards, caught him with a looping right hand, and then was, pressuring him up against the cage. Actually, he was first throwing bombs against the cage before taking this fight to the ground, attempting to, dominate the position. But Nzechukwu scrambles a bit up to his feet, and then Valter Walker fakes out Nzechukwu, drops down to heel hook, like a fake single leg into the heel hook against the cage in the clinch, and then drops to the perfect technique and like literally looked like he had Nzechukwu's leg twisted backwards. It was a nasty heel hook. It was perfect technique. And Valter Walker gets a sub in less than a minute here. Sub first minute submission. No punches landed either on the opposite side for Kennedy and Nzechukwu, which looking at it now, it's like, damn, he didn't even throw a shot. He was forced backwards. He was uncomfortable, and he was quickly tapped out. The jiu-jitsu game of Valter Walker is intriguing. I mean, he's the king of the heel hook. His game is heel hooks. 3 straight heel hook wins. You don't see this often. You haven't seen it in years, all these heel hooks. You haven't seen it at heavyweight in such a long time. I'm very intrigued by Valter Walker's style in the heavyweight division, a division that, there's a lot of strikers in, and, some of the wrestlers are less athletic. But now we have this, slick submission artist that's towards the top 15. I think that Valter Walker is very close to getting a chance to break into the top 15. Like, I'm looking at the number 15 guy in the world. It's Rivzan Kuniev. I don't know if that fight is necessarily next for him, but I do think a fight against a big body like Martin Budai could be a possibility. I do think even a fight against, Mick Parkin could end up being a possibility. Depends how close to the top 15 they want to keep him, or they want to still have him fighting guys that are slightly outside of it, because there's a clear matchup. Battle of Brazil. Johanata Diniz, the kickboxer, versus Valter Walker, the grappler. Like, if they're looking to give him another fighter that is outside of the top 15, but, like, knocking on that top 15 door, I feel like realistically that would be the most sensible fight to make. Obviously, if you want to break him into the top 15, I have no issue with it. I think Martin Budai or Mick Parkin, either one, would be decent fights. It's so crazy seeing Martin Budai ranked in the top 15 as well. He's fighting Buchecha. Buchecha versus Valter Walker would be wild if Buchecha does win. Just go battle of grapplers, see who pulls through. I'm excited for that Buchecha debut. And I'm excited for more of Valter Walker. He's a heavyweight in his 20s with a unique skill set. I'll tell you that. And we need those. Next fight, Eduarda Moura beat Lauren Murphy. First 2 rounds, Eduarda Moura able to outstrike her a bit, land some key takedowns. Look quicker. Round number 3, Murphy came on strong. Had a couple of key moments. Had a really deep ghillie attempt. And then even had a standing ghillie for a moment after the initial ghillie was lost. So I think that, like, Lauren Murphy put together a pretty badass third round, having Eduarda Moura in a very compromised position. Mora's got high level jiu-jitsu though. She was able to fight out of it, but, like, I won't lie, I'm thinking about this fight and I'm like, Eduarda Mora's stock didn't really rise here. She beat a gutsy OG who had been off over 2 years, and this was the retirement fight. Eduarda Moura, looking to be a contender on the come up. I don't feel great about it. Like, I don't see her running up too much higher in this, women's flyweight division. Because I'm thinking to myself, all right, like, you have an aging Lauren Murphy. She's not in the rankings. How does Eduarda Moura do with somebody like a JJ Aldrich? JJ Aldrich fighting Corinne Silva. How does she do fighting the winner of that matchup potentially, I don't know. I'm genuinely curious. I guess I just don't really love her chances. Like, she's overrated. Like, she didn't look that good. Like, Lauren Murphy was in that fight, and Mora's, like, tired in round number 3. Just, like, grateful that she gets to the final bell. I think Eduarda Mora's got good grappling, but it's not exceptional. She's got solid takedown game, but it's not amazing. Very interesting. I don't know. I don't think she's 12-1, but I don't think she's a blue chip prospect. How about that? Still, nonetheless, she beat Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy was authentic after the fight. I don't know what the fuck you're saying. Is Morris speaking Portuguese to her? Send off from Murphy. She's a tough girl, and respect to her. Next fight, Jake Matthews made quick work at Chidi and Njokuani, got him down, then took his back standing, put in the rear naked choke, and call it wraps. Chidi and Njokuani got ran over by Jake Matthews. This is one of those star-studded performances from Jake. It was like a bursting on the scene with a problem type performance. I mean, granted, Jake Matthews been around forever, but the win streak that he's put together is really impressive now. Like, if you look at Jake Matthews, it was kind of up down for a while, but now is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, and that loss is to Michael Morales, coming off a 3-fight winning streak, and then going out and getting a really quick rear naked choke of Chidi and Njokuani, and essentially making it look easy. Matthews, he's a tough customer at only 30 years of age. In that welterweight division, there's a possibility of something positive coming. I think for Jake Matthews, he's definitely earned the big fight. I think the matchup between Jake Matthews and somebody like a Mike Malott is a real possibility, and that's a fight that I like, or the Renat Fakhretdinov and Andreas Gustafsson winner. Either one of those fights could be pretty dope for him. Now, for Chidi Bang Bang, I think his best bet is to probably move back up because he can't make 170, and I'm sick of seeing him try and miss. It's frustrating because he just can't make the weight, and he keeps missing weight here, and he looks terrible on the scale. So I think middleweight's where he needs to be after this fight, especially as bad as he lost. Not saying that the weigh-in had everything to do with it, but I feel like it was somewhat of a factor. But nonetheless, Jake Matthews went out and did well enough. Like, I mean, did more than well enough. He exceeded expectations, did more than well enough. He did great for himself. So respect to Jake Matthews going out there and winning. Next fight, Max Griffin, Chris Curtis. It was too close for comfort. Curtis gets a split decision. I did think it should have been a unanimous. I thought 2-1 all day for the side of Chris Curtis. But in round number 1, there was an unfortunate clash of heads, which caused pretty clear gash over the eye of Chris Curtis, and he was also hitting the groin earlier in the round. So 2 accidental fouls by Max Griffin. But still, Griffin was backed up, worn down, caught with big shots, and I think pushed to that breaking point, and Chris Curtis digging deep even through some adversity, even, looking a little off center in round number 1. He was able to overcome and not get frustrated, which I think was a big key, and get a hard fought win over Max Griffin. Like when Chris Curtis would land, it would be impactful shots. When Max Griffin would land, it would be more peppering shots. So Curtis cracking Griffin, even if it wasn't knockdowns or anything like that, when he hit him, there was force being had. On the opposite end, Griffin was kind of just peppering at Chris Curtis. And for a majority of the fight, Curtis was forcing Griffin backwards and kind of like chasing him around the cage most of the time. Griffin tried to stay real close to the cage using lateral movement, but Curtis kind of walked him down, bullied him, and seemingly dictated the pace. And I thought he clearly won the second and third round. Good body work from Curtis in this fight. Some decent shots up high. Max Griffin definitely looked tough, and that's why it was a split decision. It was a close striking battle, but Curtis ends up on the right side of things. Can't find that knockout touch that he used to find, and he's been missed a decision as of late as far as his recent wins, but still, nonetheless, demands respects going out there and beating Max Griffin, even if it was a little too close and competitive for comfort. You know what I'm saying? Let's jump to the next fight on the card. Main card opener. If you guys haven't, hit the likes. If you're new, subscribe it up. Tokkos broke Junior Tafa. I think it's official to say Junior Tafa's jiu-jitsu game just really is a massive hole. Tokkos does have a jiu-jitsu black belt. He mentioned that in the UFC post-fight interview, and you definitely saw that black belt grappling ability. Tafa's striking was nice, and he landed some big shots on the feet, but ultimately he couldn't stop the consistent takedown attack. And like when they got to the ground, there was like a quit in Tafa, whereas like you could tell Tokkos wanted it so bad, and he pushed and he pushed and he pushed and he pushed. And Tafa, like slowly but surely, you saw the breath going, the energy going, and you saw him like lose that oomph of life to go out and really want it bad. And kind of towards the end, he's like, all right, I'm done. Put me in the arm triangle and let's call it a day. Tafa's ground skills are terrible. And I really don't think he optimizes his grappling training. Obviously, Tokkos is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but nonetheless, I feel like Tafa, it's like, yeah, he can defend some takedowns, but as soon as he gets taken down, and he eventually will, it's like the get-up game is absolute shit. The defense of passing, the defense against fighters trying to pass is terrible. It's really like, I don't know, blue belt level at best, maybe jiu-jitsu. I really feel like Tafa needs a shitload of work in his ground skills, and he just doesn't seem adamant about improving those skills. And like I'm thinking now, he just cut down to 205, and he goes out and loses to Tokkos. Like he might be getting his walking papers. It might be game set match for him. And if they do keep him around, because yeah, he won his last fight, just give him a damn striker, because I don't think this guy's ever going to get better at grappling. I think that if I'm Tafa, I'd rather be in BKFC or something like that, because his style is literally striking only. There's zero grappling. And like Tokkos is just a gritty dog who's eventually going to try to submit you. So respect to Tokkos going out there and getting a grind heavy win and breaking Junior Tafa. Next fight, Vitor Petrino's heavyweight debut. I felt like it would be a good one, and it damn sure was. Was able to drag Lane to the ground. I believe he caught the kick and then tripped him, if I'm not mistaken. And then Vitor Petrino was able to get on top, control position, and have the head and arm for a bit. Then eventually get some ground and pound from mount off, and then Austen Lane ends up giving the back, and Petrino locks up the neck and calls it wraps. It was dominance. Like literally, Lane could do nothing when Petrino was on top of him. He looked really strong. I think Vitor Petrino is a fun signing for the heavyweight division. Obviously, it's a wide open division that the UFC is like, on the hunt for prospects for. I obviously think there's a matchup between, Vitor Petrino and, excuse me, it's almost 4 in the morning. And, Johanata Janiz, who, was originally booked to fight him prior to this one here. I look at the heavyweight division and I think like a couple of wins and Petrino could break into the top 15. It's just, I think he needs like a victory against a Johanata Janiz. If it's not going to be a Johanata Janiz, when I look through the heavyweight division, like what else are we going to do? Are we going to do Petrino versus Muhammad Usman or Petrino versus Thomas Peterson? Are those the directions? Or is it like Petrino deserves a bigger fight and then he fights like a Johan Janiz, who he's going to have a massive grappling advantage over, by the way? Because like Austen Lane had Janiz mounted and Petrino destroyed Lane in grappling. I think Petrino would absolutely do damage and destroy the side of Johan Janiz if they ended up engaging in a fight. I think like best case scenario for Janiz is avoid this guy because Petrino, say what you want about the Smith loss, he can do it all pretty well. And I think he definitely demands some respect after looking like a full size heavyweight and controlling like one, too. Good performance. Next fight, Nate Landwehr, Morgan Charrière. It ended up being a dog fight. Round number 1, Charrière. I felt like they able to do pretty well, but Landwehr was still kind of relentless. Landwehr was still trying hard. It's just Charrière was sharper. Round number 2 was close, and like all the momentum shifted towards the side of Nate the Train. So to see Charrière deliver a quick knockout come round number 3 just shows like how fast things can change in a UFC fight. Inside of the cage, big shots land. Nate Landwehr gets rocked with the right hand to the ear. And then it was like kind of over from there. Some big blitzes against the cage, really just one big barrage. And then Charrière caught him with some wild hooks. Landwehr goes down. The ref jumps in. The fight is called wraps. After he had a pretty compelling second round where he landed good straights, was able to find the chin of Charrière a good amount and make him uncomfortable, and like really had walked himself back into the fight to then, subsequently be knocked out in the early stages of round 3 at home in Tennessee. Rough for Nate the Train, but that's what fighting is, bro. It's rough shit. Shit goes sideways sometimes. You think that you got it all figured out? Hey, you don't. You think that you're going to cruise to that decision. You got the momentum on your side, and then one big shot lands. And I think that volatility with fighting is what makes it so exciting for me, The what if factor runs so deep. And Morgan Charrière violently chinned Nate Landwehr in this matchup here. He's a fun one to watch. I do think there was moments where I was like, he's not that accurate. He's okay. I think Morgan Charrière is beatable, though. I will say. I mean, obviously, he lost his last fight, but I think by unranked fighters, like, I wasn't blown away with Morgan Charrière. I didn't think to myself, oh my God, he's improved so much. I was like, he found the knockout, but he was pushed to that breaking point for a lot of the fight. So good on him digging deep and getting the KO. It was a solid performance. Steve Garcia absolutely outworked Calvin Kattar. He outstruck him, even dropped him around number 3. And I think like he gave Kattar like a proper beating in the area where in his prime he thrived at most. I think that Steve Garcia is definitely an interesting problem for the featherweight division, and we'll talk a matchup to make next. But I first want to speak on Calvin Kattar. who was pretty much outgunned in every aspect of striking, was still throwing hard towards the end of the fight and trying to find some spinning attacks and like looking for explosive moments. But ultimately, Calvin Kattar was completely shut down and picked apart by Steve Garcia for the fight. 85 to 26 significant strikes is a very large mark. More than 3 times more shots landed for Steve Garcia. He also threw about double the strike, so he's throwing more and he's hitting at a higher clip rate. And the truth is, like Calvin Kattar just looked like his timing on his shots was off, could not get into a rhythm and find range. And Steve Garcia threatened him with big shots throughout, backed him up, made him uncomfortable, stayed after it with his high output attack, and put a beating on a guy that challenged for a title at one point and now sends him on a 5 fight losing streak, which is sad. It's sad to see a 5 fight losing streak for Calvin Kattar. I'm disappointed for him. And I look at that featherweight division and I think about Steve Garcia, and I'll be like, huh, Steve Garcia. I think him versus a Danny Gay Patricio Pitbull winner could be interesting. But him versus somebody like a David Onama, that's a fight I favor. David Onama, or maybe they really want to give him the chance of a lifetime. And then you give him somebody like a Josh Emmett in a striker's delight type of fight. Obviously, Emmett 5'6" with crazy power. Garcia 6 foot with 5 of his last 6 wins by knockout. So it's one of those fights where I think like Josh Emmett and Steve Garcia could deliver such fireworks, but I don't know if there'll be a reluctance to Emmett taking the fight because stylistically it's not a good matchup for him. And on top of that, he's been out for a little bit and Steve Garcia's on this win streak where Emmett, been pushed to a breaking point and holding on to a cusp of what's left of relevancy, maybe, maybe. Maybe. I mean, he can still bang. He can still throw hard. I have my doubts when Lerone Murphy tuned him up. I think Steve Garcia is a very compelling fighter at 145 because he has a tricky frame with the long arms and the long legs and the height. I just think he has like a weird ability to close the gap and like land clean shots and kind of, I don't want to say blitz, right? But put pressure and make opposition uncomfortable. I think Steve Garcia, I see why he knocks people out. Calvin Kattar is one of the toughest fighters in history. I see why Steve Garcia goes out there and like absolutely beats people's ass. He just melts them. And that's damn impressive. So shout out Steve Garcia. And I want to see him fight Josh Emmett. Let's give him a fucking huge fight. Let's give him the chance of a lifetime after beating the brakes off Calvin Kattar. Let's jump to the co-main event. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Gabriel Bonfim. This was a split decision win for Bonfim. Wonderboy nearly got it. Wonderboy literally nearly got it. It came down to the third round where Wonderboy did land a decent high kick. Bonfim was able to block the majority of it, but like the shot was still impactful on the arms, but I don't think it was a fight winning shot. There was still punches earlier in the round for Bonfim that landed in round number 3. And then towards the end, Bonfim was controlling the clinch slash grappling positions regardless of if there was significant damage. When you think of Mario Batista and Jose Aldo, you think of this type of matchup as well, where Bonfim was smothering Thompson later in the fight and secured the win by embracing the smother. Now, I'll say it like this in round number 1. The expectation is Bonfim's going to be able to really run over Wonderboy, but not the case. He did dominate position. He was pressing him backwards. He did have striking moments to catch Wonderboy, but still, Wonderboy was an absolute dog in the fight. Round number 2, Wonderboy even had Bonfim on very wobbly legs after catching him with a high kick. And it's not like Bonfim didn't land either. He landed some big shots on Wonderboy too. And looking at significant strikes, the stats were more even with the other stipulation of Bonfim having a lot of control time, whether it be in the clinch or whether it be, in top position. Granted, Wonder Boy's defense is still impeccable. Wonder Boy's defense at 42 is still the same, grappling defense. Wonder Boy is still a savage. He's still in it with these top guys because To give a 27-year-old with insane hype on the come up, and yeah, he lost one, but like still has looked very good and dominant, to give him such a run for his money and go out there and nearly get it in like a nail biting close fight over a guy that is 17-1, now 18-1, from Brazil, known for being a submission specialist, an area where you have struggled with in the past. And instead, Wonder Boy just put together one of those like badass, gutsy performances where in loss, you still celebrate him. Now, I'd like to see him just do fun fights, but I doubt the UFC is crazy about it because he can fuck a lot of people up. Wonder Boy is still good. To go to a split decision at 42 with a 27-year-old Brazilian prospect known for fucking people up, I think it's something that demands a lot of respect. I'm laughing at myself because I'm looking at my eyes. They're like flip flopping. I'm sorry that it's 4 a.m., chat. I'm sorry. Yeah, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson won the hearts of the people still. Bonfim, though, ended up winning the fight and, puts himself in a good spot forthcoming. I look at it. Wonderboy was ranked number 12 in the world. Bonfim gets a split decision. I could see the UFC going the route with like Bonefim versus a Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez winner. I think those are options. I think the rankings needs an overhaul with Michael Page going up and fighting in the middleweight division. So that kind of changes things a bit. And then I'm even looking at like Colby Covington. He's ranked number 8. I don't know, he could be number 12. He just took out Wonder Boy at 12. So it's like, where does he fight from here? Are we going to see him fight backwards? Are they pushing? I don't think they're pushing Bonfim up. I don't think Bonfim's ready for these top guys, but he's gonna have to fight somebody in the top 15. I mean, get it? He barely squeaked by against Wonder Boy, but he did land some big shots, and like you have to respect that shit because Wonder Boy is damn hard to hit. So W for Bonfim to get it done. I did agree with the scorecards, all things considered. And I think he deserves a lot of respect for being willing to even strike with Wonder Boy. He did try to panic wrestle a lot, though, to be fair, and it got shut down a lot of the time. I mean, if you look at takedown attempts, 5 out of 14, and these 5 that he landed, Wonder Boy was very quick to get back up to his feet. It's not like it was just embrace the grind control from Bonefim the whole time. So W props for the side of Wonder Boy. Obviously, more props for the winner of the fight and Gabriel Bonfim. Let's jump to the next fight. It's our main event. If you guys haven't, make sure you smash the likes. And if you're new, subscribe. And it was Derrick Lewis versus Taliesin Teixeira. And I think the question you guys want answer number one is, what are my thoughts on the stoppage? Initial reaction, it felt fine. Second look from a different angle, it felt early. Third look, with the thought setting in of, okay, Taliesin Teixeira used the cage to get back up to his feet. And if not for the cage and him doing an illegal technique by grabbing the cage and pulling himself up like he's doing a body weight pull up, he may have very well been knocked out with ground and pound. So then to call a timeout to that fight, just take a point away from Taliesin Teixeira and then resume, it's like Derrick Lewis then loses that chance of momentum. Yes, Teixeira was on his way up to the feet, but he did a blatantly illegal technique to get up to his feet, which from the referee, I said, well, this guy's not in the right frame of mind. He's grabbing the fucking cage. He knows that's against the rules. So the way I look at it is, yes, Taliesin Teixeira was on the path to recovery, but no, he should not have been rewarded with a chance to, get a break and get a point deduction just because there was a bending of the rules. Instead, he seemed to be hurt bad enough where the only reason he did get up to his feet is because of the cage helping him get there, which is why Derrick Lewis got the TKO win. Now, Lewis got caught with a pretty strong jab early. It seemed to bother his eye. He claimed to be doing gamesmanship, but I don't buy the gamesmanship talk. I think that Derrick Lewis is definitely cracked in his eye and he said, oh, fuck, this sucks and hurts really bad. I hate this right now. And when I think about Derrick Lewis's style, it's so interesting how he thrives against these tall guys. He likes to bait them into punching range and then just load up on wild shots. That's what he did here. He rocked Taliesin Teixeira. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was a left hook that he caught Teixeira with right on the chin after Teixeira had looked for the jab. Teixeira goes down. Derrick Lewis is all over him with big shots. And then the referee jumps in as we're, towards the cage. And Teixeira had just done an illegal move climbing the cage. And fight gets stopped. So I'm gonna say not a unfair stoppage, not necessarily a bad stoppage. Like obviously, if it was up to me, I want to see the fight play out for longer because I really did have an intrigue in the matchup of striking styles. But we're not going to get it because Talos and Teixeira got finished in the first round, regardless of if maybe they shouldn't have stopped the fight and it should have been allowed to continue a little longer. The rule bend is what got him the loss. That's really the narrative that I'm pushing. You go out and grab the cage like that after being compromised. The ref is not to just come in and take points and play that bullshit game with you. Instead, the ref's going to be like, okay, fuck this. We're going to have to DQ this man or we're going to have to TKO him. That's it. And it wasn't an illegal strike from D. Lou. So down goes Taliesin Teixeira doing the illegal tactic, pulling up on the cage. I think you have to respect the side of the referee, Jason Herzog, for calling the fight when he did. I get it. People were very upset and fuming in the moment, but sitting on it for a couple hours and, reflecting back upon it, I see why he stopped it because you can't penalize Derrick Lewis with giving Taliesin Teixeira a long timeout. And on the flip side of that, let's say Taliesin Teixeira now gets a timeout and they could take a point. Like this is not a fight that's going the distance. It's a fight that ends in knockout. And what if the factor of, oh, he wasn't going to get up without the cage is there? So fuck to see the fight end in like in, I don't know, unsatisfying way for me. But I do feel as though I am impressed with Derrick Lewis at 40 years old to still be able to find his timing, play that game, right? Use the mind games in this crack Taliesin, and then put on one of the most badass celebrations where he ended up mooning the fucking crowd. Like Derrick Lewis, the All American, he's got Donald Trump on the phone as he's getting his hand raised. Respect to Derrick Lewis, nothing but it. As an underdog, goes out and wins and gets a quick KO. We can complain, moan, and groan about the stoppage, but I want to give Derrick Lewis his praise because he looked in very good shape in this fight and he delivered an impactful punch that dropped Taliesin Teixeira and then followed it up with big ground and pound. And it's hard to say if Teixeira would have survived because Lewis also caught him with the left hand as Teixeira had used an illegal technique to stand up to his cage or stand up to, on the cage. I look at it, I'm like, I say fair. Hindsight 2020, I say fair stoppage. 35 seconds to work is all we needed. Teixeira with a nice jab. He was looking fast early. He looked really confident too, but he hadn't been hit by a Derrick Lewis before. We'll see what the hell happens with Taliesin. So down goes a heavyweight prospect that the UFC is hoping for. It's like, are they ever going to exist? Or are we just going to have Derrick Lewis still fighting to like 45? It's like going to be all of this era's guys that are, 40 something before we get any prospects. Because right now we need heavyweight prospects. I'm looking at it. I mean, you got Jailton Almeida, and I guess in some senses you can call him a prospect. Waldo Cortez Acosta, he in some senses is a prospect, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's like, is he a prospect? He's a contender on the come up. You know? We're killed of actual prospects. Like you say, oh, well, Rivzon, but he just lost and he's in his 30s. The heavyweight division's got a prospect problem. At least we got Valter Walker. We got Vitor Petrino. We just lost Taliesin Teixeira, at least for now. But I do think he could come back. I do think Taliesin Teixeira could make like an epic return at some point. It's just, you give him somebody lower level. I mean, maybe Mohammed Usman is the perfect fight for him. Give him a serious step down. He beat Tafa, and Tafa is nothing compared to Derrick Lewis. Tafa's bottom of the barrel, right? Tafa brothers in general. That's Taliesin's nice win, but it's like he looked to be crazy dynamic. Then he's got caught. That's the chaos factor of MMA. The unproven Taliesin Teixeira caught big time, put to sleep, and call it a fucking day. Derrick Lewis, the OG, still holding on to hope. He called out, where's Waldo? He said he wants to fight Waldo, but the issue lies is that Waldo is currently booked to fight Sergey Pavlovich. I don't think with a win, Derrick Lewis would necessarily deserve a fight as big as that one. But looking at the top, Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derrick Lewis, like it kind of seems like the perfect matchup. If not that fight, and we're going down a different direction for Derrick Lewis, I actually got an idea that I think is pretty interesting. Maybe it's crazy. Is it wild to give him Shamil Gaziv? Is it wild? He beat Martian Tiberi, lost to Sergey Spivak, hasn't fought Where's Waldo, lost to Jelton, beat Curtis Blades, lost to Pavlovich, beat Volkov, lost to Gan. If there was an injury to, a Pavlovich and then he stepped in and he fought against the side of Where's Waldo, I think that would be, his fastest path back into the top. If not, he's going to have to wait a little bit. If he's willing to take somebody lower ranked, it's Shamil Gaziev. If he wants someone higher ranked, then I think in his mind, he's like waiting on Waldo Cortez Acosta. He's kind of waiting and hoping. He's like, all right. He said, listen, I'm going to see what I can do. And then Pavlovich, of course. So Pavlovich and Where's Waldo, the winner could like kind of determine who's next for Lewis. But I would say if it is Pavlovich, I feel like less likely. I feel like this fight against Lord Blob, Shamil Gaziev might end up being what it is. And then like Gaziev somehow beats him. I think Derrick Lewis could definitely catch him. We'll see what D-Lew wants to do. We'll see what the UFC decides. But nonetheless, Derrick Lewis with a quick finish of Taliesin Teixeira. Bravo. Round of applause worthy, regardless of the stoppage being weird as fuck. That ain't Derrick Lewis's fault. He fought great. And I do want to go over the predictions. 8-4 on the card. I'm going to run through it fast here, guys. I'll be honest, I got one eye closed, all right? Taliesin Teixeira, Derrick Lewis wins. Bonfim, Cha-ching, W there. But the over 1.5, the Lock City parlay hit, so this is good. This is really a win. Nate Landwehr, Charrière pick on point, Cha-ching. And then Petrino pick on point, bang, bang, bang. Moving down a little more. L on this one, believing in Tafa is a terrible idea. Chris Curtis, second Lock City parlay piece with the over in the Kattar fight. Bam, bam, bam. Matthews and Njokuani, too much faith in an old fighter that I was a fan of. W here, perfect prediction, cha-ching, bang, bang. You know what I'm saying? Perfect prediction here with the underdog Valter Walker getting the sub, especially the heel hook. Win with Mike Davis by knockout of Ramirez, money call there, and Fatima Kline with Melissa Martinez. Yeah. So I'm looking at the card: 1 win, 2 win, 3 win, 4 win, 4-1, 5-1, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, 7-3, 8-3, 8-4. 8 wins and 4 losses, and the Brazilian fighters can't win main events to save their damn lives. I guess that's just the story of 2025 MMA. Listen, guys, I'm really tired. I want to go to sleep. I love you all. W to the people. Smash the likes if you're new. Subscribe it up. The parlays for this card, as far as the Lock City, was pretty on point. I would say that I was eternally grateful for the Lock City. So if you're playing the plus money from Wednesday, at the very least, I'm hitting because I'm 5-0, all right, for the true summer, June and July. And then if you look at some of the other parlays, safe but boring with Curtis and Davis hit. Confident, -118. Bonfim, Davis, Curtis. You have to sweat, though. And then obviously the Lock City parlay with the over 1.5 and Chris Curtis. And then some of the others like +127, Davis, Bonfim, Petrino, and Charrière end up coming through. Obviously, Teixeira doesn't win the fight. Nothing with him ends up coming through. There was a good amount that had Teixeira by KO, and then the rest lost with that. And he was the key piece, and we lost in the main event. We had a plus 1,172 just sitting on the framework, waiting to be hit, and then Teixeira gets stopped in the first. But that's part of the game of this life, And I'm grateful the Lock City hit. W to the people. Smash the damn likes. If you're new, subscribe. I want to go to bed. All right? I love you guys. I'll see you later. And yeah, good night. Peace out.